Welcome to this edition of Dennislaw series, which is focused on, using the best of AI prompts, using AI prompts. Well, we would all know that AI has rapidly become a powerful tool within our legal circles, and it is transforming gradually. It is transforming the way lawyers, students of law, and even judges, go about analyzing authorities, supporting judicial decision making, and setting the pace for effective legal writing. But one thing that we have to notice that from the last session, we looked at the best practices in AI usage. And I believe that, yes, it is not just about the availability of AI in our legal work, but we are looking at how to effectively use it to the extent that we are getting the desired results. Just like our legal advocacy, our legal writing in our corporate settings, AI has to be used to achieve clarity, to achieve precision, and effectively use it to get the results that we need. And so it assists us to obtain accurate and reliable context-sensitive outputs from the AI tools. And so this discussion, we are blessed to have an expert who will take us through the processes in which we can harness the benefits of AI without compromising legal accuracy and professional responsibility. Over a few months, we've seen news of lawyers being held before disciplinary committees, lawyers being cited for contempt for the irresponsible use of AI. And so that is why it has become imperative that AI being an aid to our legal work, we study about its best practices. And so I would introduce our speaker for the day. He's our distinguished Eliezer Fojo. He is a product manager with over close to 4 years of experience in helping build amazing legal tech products such as Dennislaw, the famous and popular Dennislaw that we have all seen around. Now, he holds an MSc in business analytics with his focus on natural language understanding and processing, and combines his knowledge with experience in predictive modeling. I believe that he's going to explain all these technical terms to us, but he's especially invested in AI systems which optimizes business functions, legal analysis, and general operational processes. And so in this presentation, he brings this unique understanding of how AI systems work to show how prompts can effectively be written to provide maximum efficiency. I'm not going to speak so much. We are trying as much as possible to stay within our 1 hour limit. And so in this session, Eliza will take us through a brief presentation. And so I believe by now, our students, my learned friends, my judges who have joined, you have your notepads now, you have your iPads so that you're able to take some notes. He's going to show his screen, which would display the presentation, after which we would engage in an interactive section of question and answers. And so, Eliza, you are welcome, and thank you for accepting to share your insights and knowledge with us.
All right. Thank you very much, JV, for the very elaborate introduction. Because of time, I'll just go straight into the presentation.
Right.
If you can respond, it means that you can hear me. So I'll just go.
Yeah, I can hear you, Eliza. I believe our participants can also hear you.
Yes, that works for me. All right, so thank you very much. My name is Eliezer Fojo, like JB mentioned. In this presentation, I'll talk briefly in I think the next 30 minutes on how you can effectively write AI prompts, whether you're a lawyer, you're a judge. And because of the audience we have, we'll try and make this presentation also relevant for our law students who are on the call with us. But before I start, let me just give us a bit of background on what we are as Dennislaw and what this workshop is about. We believe at Dennislaw that we are Ghana's premier legal research platform. We believe that we are pioneers in legal technology and we are able to make this claim because...
Eliza, can you speak a bit louder? Some are struggling to hear you.
All right, is it better? Is it
Can you
better?
try again?
Is it
Yes, yes. I think if you keep this decibel.
okay? All right, cool. So I'm saying that we believe at Dennislaw that we are the legal research platform. We are the premier legal research platform in Ghana, and we can make claims like this because of the comprehensive database of Ghanaian law that we have that combines case law from the superior courts, legislation, AI-powered research tools like we'll be showing today. And we've known through experience that it is trusted by lawyers and legal professionals across the country and even outside. Now, this presentation is mostly for lawyers, solicitors, judges, magistrates, and literally anyone who practices with law or is learning the law and wants to use AI effectively. So we make a distinction that there are people, and we acknowledge that there are people who still are a bit laid back with AI usage and would want to still stay on the fence. This presentation may help change your mind and see just how powerful AI can be for your use cases. But otherwise, we would try and tailor this mostly for people who already have an appreciation for artificial intelligence. Would he learn here how you can write precise, effective prompts that would get you accurate and as much as possible legally relevant responses from the AI tools. We believe that is important because of the change globally with respect to legal practice and how AI is influencing in one way or the other. So generally, this is just the focus that we're going to have in this conversation. I have just 30 minutes, so I'll try and make it as brief as possible, and then we'll open up for questions and a more exciting interaction. All right. So before we go even further, we want to understand really how AI works. And we want to understand when we say AI properly, what actually is it and how.
Lisa, I think some participants are still struggling to hear you. If you could amplify your voice.
Okay, all right. Is it better?
Great. Yes. Yes, I think yes.
At the risk of those who can't hear me, I'm going to shout. As in,
Yeah, I think at this point you have to. You have to.
apologies
Great.
for
Great.
those who could hear me clearly, but because of.
Yes, you can be heard now.
All
Yeah.
right. So we're saying that to be able to understand the machine or to be able to let the machine understand you, you should be able to speak its language. Now, computers, like we've always known, I mean, from maybe computer 101, they respond in zeros and ones. They don't respond in natural language like we have. But then this has changed based on some of the technologies that we have, such that now we can write human language and then the computer will give us some kind of response. So it's a simple interface between you and the computer and what the computer now gives to you, where it starts with your prompt, which is the instruction that you are typing. Now, your prompt is in English language, and in and of itself, the computer would not be able to understand. But then there is a middle person or there is a middle belt that does this conversion for you, translates what you are saying in a manner that you realistically are trying to communicate to the computer. And then the computer would, based on patterns in the conversation that you're having with it, and also based on historical data, it can predict the most likely useful response for you that will now show you as the output. So then you don't type in terms of zeros and ones, you type in natural language like how is the boy going to school? And then the computer now understands that in your natural language, predicts the most useful response based on the tokens that it has created. And we'll explain some of these terms in the next slide. And then based on that, it's able to now give you an output that makes sense to you. So it is important to then know that an AI in and of itself is not a search engine in the traditional sense of what a search engine is. So it does not retrieve stored facts from a database. Most of what it is doing for you is from historical data that it has learned over time. So within the AI architecture, there is multiple layers. There's the machine learning layer, there's the deep learning layer, which talks about the neural architectures that goes into what the AI understands. and then it gives you the kind of output that helps based on what you are looking for. And so we must understand by default that an AI is not a traditional search engine. It also has no memory by default. So each conversation starts fresh. Now we are able to address some of these things programmatically by storing session states, so that when you store a session, then it can retrieve that memory and use that to continue the conversation you're having. But as a model in itself, an AI traditionally retains no memory. So if you don't give it the kind of reminders, and as we move further, we'll talk about what tokens are. So you understand that for every text that you write, it breaks it down into tokens. And then the tokens are what helps the computer to understand what you're trying to do. So if the tokens that you've entered becomes too long and the model that you are using does not have enough memory storage, then it can begin to give you quote unquote false responses, because it has forgotten the context you gave it in the beginning and is now giving you responses based on what it can now remember. So you would usually have to tell your instructions over and over again so that you prevent what we call hallucination. And again, we'll define that, where the AI now ignores, or I'm using the word ignore loosely, ignores the data that it has, and then based on maybe either it has been overfitted or underfitted by the actual data you give it, it's now inventing facts for you. That is where it happens when now you see an AI giving you false citations that gets you in trouble. Again, we talk about AI predicting and not reasoning from a technical standpoint, in the sense that we've said that it predicts the next words based on the patterns that it has identified. Now, newer models are coming that have reasoning capabilities. That is not our focus in this session. Over here, we are trying to understand that AI in itself relies on its predictive capabilities. And that is what gives you usually the kind of response that you'd get. So an AI traditionally has no understanding of law. And so if you use an AI model for a legal aspect or for a legal task, there's now extra responsibility on you to give it a lot of context so that it understands exactly what you're trying to do. Otherwise, the prompt you're giving it may be based on medicine, may be based on astrology, may be based on just about anything. Now, thankfully, with platforms like Dennislaw, we get to customize the engine that runs the reasoning for you, so that we layer the AI on legal text. So the development that happens for you assumes that we are making this for legal personnel, and then we try to take care of the context for you, so you don't have to explicitly state context every time. Otherwise, if you use a general purpose AI like ChatGPT, you must necessarily establish the context. Otherwise, it will give it a what we call garbage in, garbage out. You give it a vague and ambiguous prompt, and it will give you a vague, ambiguous answer. That just about fits any context at all that you place it. And then again, like I've said previously, context now drives the entire conversation. So we must understand really how we are setting the context and how we intend for that context to shape the conversation we are having. All right. So key definitions. Uh, this is something I think I've already spoken about, but I'll touch briefly on the more important things. First, what a prompt is. The prompt is the text instruction that you are typing into the AI tool. So if I open Claude, or if I open any AI tool at all and I type, what is a boy? The set of words, what plus is plus a plus boy, is what we call the prompt. What do we intend for that prompt to do? We intend for it to convey the message that we want the computer to analyze and give us a response on. So it is your interface with the model and the only lever really that you're able to direct your output. So it's kind of like the resource you have to determine the kind of output you want the computer to give you. So when we know what prompt is, the skill that we need to be able to structure our prompts in a way that gives us the kind of quality output you're looking for is what we call prompt engineering, or more loosely, prompt writing. And that is our focus in today's workshop or webinar. I mentioned again what a token is, and sometimes you may see a context window. And the fact here is that an AI system typically would process the entire prompt in chunks that it calls a token, usually 3/4 of the word. So it breaks it down into tokens, and it breaks it down into tokens, and then based on the tokens that it has, I don't want to go very technical, but the tokens that it has broken it down now becomes transformed into a manner that supports the kind of reasoning that you'd get as output. And so the context is the maximum amount of text that the AI can consider at any given time. And so if you give it a long document or a long judgment or something like that, you may need to break it down in sessions. You may need to give it a window where it now is able to process the chunks properly, because you remember we said that traditionally the context window may be limited and it has no memory. And so you may need to truncate it in bits, let it remember the previous sessions. But again, this is in earlier models. This is for earlier models of AI that did not have a lot of these advancements that we've seen. So these days you see that even models are able to analyze very large, extensive data sets. But traditionally, that is what we mean by token and context window. Now, from a commercial standpoint, that is usually what you would see if an AI service system tells you you have maybe 3 tokens left. It's just trying to, or 3 credits left. That is sort of like a commercial way of reintroducing the fact that there are sessions that you must manage. So as you overuse your session, and I say that loosely again, as you overuse your session, you may be maximizing out the window you have, and you may have to pay extra. That's what you'd see sometimes. An AI system will tell you you have 10 credits left or 5 credits left. Now, I mentioned hallucination, and we said that hallucination is when the AI now confidently gives you information that is false. There are multiple reasons that can account for that, but that is not our focus today. But we should understand, and that is the basis for the disclaimer that several AI models will show you, that AI can generate false responses, so always verify. And you can't take it as gospel facts. You should always verify, because even for some of the best trained models, there's always the risk of hallucination. And if we were to go further into the technicalities, you can understand why even for the best developments, there's still room for error. And it is very difficult to get accuracy levels or precision levels of, say, 100%. I've not seen a precision score or a recall score of 100% in any of the models I have interacted with. And large language models, or LLMs, they are the underlying technologies, and you don't really need that. But I just put it here for you to have an understanding of generally what the ecosystem is when we talk about artificial intelligence as a whole. So, what is AI prompting? We've said it is the instruction that you give the AI such that the quality of your instruction will determine the quality of the AI's response for you. So we've seen I put here 3 different prompts. They try to give you sort of the same information, but then based on how you have written it, the outputs would differ. And based on what you are expecting, the outputs may shape the responses in a way that it can even change your focus completely, where you end up looking for things that were outside of your initial scope because you didn't explicitly state what you are looking for in the first instance. So if I ask generally, what does the law say about contracts? There is a ton of things that the law would say about contracts, at least for most of the faculties of law. It's a full semester course, really, that they run in contracts law. So I don't think we can explore all of that in a single context that you set for an AI. So if you ask an AI model, what does the law say about contracts? It may give you just about anything it determines is important, but that may be outside of your scope. Now, it gets better, however, when you say explain contract formation under Ghanaian law. Now, it's getting a bit contextualized. Now, we know we're not talking about English law, we're not talking about German law on contracts, we are talking more about Ghanaian law. And even then, we're talking explicitly about contract formation, not any other parts of contracts. So it gets better, but it still lacks context and some detail on the jurisdiction, such that if now we change the prompt and we say, under the Contracts Act 1960 of Ghana, what are the essential elements for a valid contract? Cite relevant case law. Now, the AI has a precise, actionable grounds for the response it would give you. And it's more likely you'll get focused responses from this sort of prompt writing. So there are 5 elements of an effective legal prompt. Now, when we go further, we'll talk about what we call the CLARE framework. It's an adaptation that I made for legal prompt writing purposes, but there's a general CLARE framework that usually guides what prompt writing really should consider. But generally, we say that consider the role or the persona, give the AI a personality. For developers, they try to explicitly state a persona in the developments that they make for the AI. But then again, it can still serve generic purposes. So in your prompt writing, it is generally recommended that you tell the AI who it is in that particular session you are engaging in. So you tell it explicitly, act as a Ghanaian commercial lawyer. This tailors all of the responses that the AI would now give you onto matters pertaining to commercial law in Ghana. And then based on that, you can now set a context where you say, provide background details. You want to tell the AI, this is the jurisdiction I want you to focus on. These are the facts of the issue I'm looking for. These are the applicable statutes that I want you to concentrate on. And then use all of these things as context for the response that you'd give me. So now the AI knows what it is. Now it knows the window within which it is operating. So then what should it do? So then you state the specific task that you are looking for. You state exactly what you need. Sometimes, and this is different when you are generally brainstorming, where you're generally brainstorming and you're looking for ideas, it's still, you should give it some context so it doesn't give you matters that are not even relevant to what you're looking for. But then again, it becomes better when you know that, and that is something you can even say when you are specifying the task, that I act as a Ghanaian commercial lawyer, you give the background details, and then the task is that I want you to give me a brainstorm of ideas on so and so and so. Having said that, then you determine the constraints that should guide the AI. So I want you to do this, but an AI is also as valid, or a prompt is also as valid as what you don't tell it to do. So you say, I want you to do A, B, C, D. It's also very important to say, I don't want you to do X, Y, Z, because it constrains the AI so it doesn't start to hallucinate. And when you're done, you give it the kind of format of the responses you want. So give me the responses as a memo. Give me the responses in 500 words. Give me the responses in A, B, or C format. And then you can then go ahead with a verification request based on maybe the data or the quality of the AI you're using. It may be able to give you relevant citations that can help you begin as an entry point for your own validation. So then you know where the AI got its responses from. And so you can now go and query those sources to see if it works for you. So we put some examples here, and I'll share the slides so that you can go into some of these things on your own terms. So like, what happens if someone is found guilty? is a poor prompt. A better prompt would be say that under the Criminal Offences Act of Ghana, what are the sentencing options available to a High Court judge for a first offender convicted of stealing under Section 124? Now, any AI, even if it's not trained exclusively in law, would still be able to understand what you're looking for and can give you a better response than if you just said, what happens if someone is found guilty? Guilty of what? Guilty in what context? Guilty of anything, really. So that's some kind of distinction you may want to have. There are several others that you can explore here and say that if you say, can hearsay be used in courts? Again, which court are we talking about? Compare that to under the Evidence Act of Ghana, in what circumstances is hearsay admissible in a criminal trial? And then you can go ahead further with some of these extras. Now, let's look at some real world cases. And again, for litigation, like remember I mentioned earlier that this was tailored mostly for lawyers, but then again, for law students in your research, for judges in your research, these are some of the guides that you may consider for the prompts that you write. So you say, summarize the legal principles on res judicata under Ghanaian law, referencing decisions from the Supreme Court of Ghana. And the output is, you want us a 3-paragraph legal memo. And these are some examples there of what a real life use case could look like for you. Because of time, I'm just having to skim through some of these. So common mistakes you could make. And let me just talk about one-shot prompting, where people just go write one query, and then whatever response they get, they run with it. There's a very high possibility that you get wrong outputs or you get unhelpful outputs. Great AI work usually is a dialogue. It's not just a simple question where you take and go. So usually you'd want to refine it iteratively. You want to expand on this. You want to rewrite this in this way. You just want to engage in more in dialogue so that it critiques its own answer, and then it's able to give you better output for what you're looking for. Again, it is very important, and this is some of the ethical things that we consider. And in this forum, we can raise the fact that in training AI models, we give it judicial cases, we give it case law and stuff. Some of these cases contain personal identifiable information on people. And so you end up training a model that contains the names of persons, contains land details of persons because it's contained in the judgment. And then these are some of the ethical issues that comes up when you are developing. And so as much as possible, you want to ignore putting confidential details in the prompts that you write. Make it as generic as possible so you don't end up feeding data that contains people's information to the AI. Because the data or the questions that you ask usually are used to refine the AI model. So the CLARE framework that I mentioned usually, so it just summarizes what we've said so far. You want to set the context. You want to give it the role that the AI is assuming there. You want to talk about the exact task that you want it to execute for you. You want to show the authority and then the outputs or the result formats you're looking for. And there's some AI tools that we've mentioned. Remember, we said ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot. These are some of the ones you already know. But Dennislaw AI is more purpose built for Ghanaian law. So it works around the context building that you usually have to do. So having said that, let me do a quick preview of the Dennislaw AI, show you exactly how it works so that it makes everyone's life easy. All right, so this is how it looks. Before I even come to the prompt writing on the AI, let me show you something we have done. And I would open just about any case. This one comes first. So I'll just open this case. And this is the new platform, or this is the new version, the newer version that we've released recently. So now for a case like this, John Mahama versus EC and Akufo-Addo, when you come to analysis, we've used the AI to generate a summary of the case before, so you can quickly check if the case does what you want it to do before you even go ahead and read the full case. We specify the subject index, the catchwords, procedural history, the issues for determination in the case, the legal arguments in the case, the holding, the ratio, the arbiter, the orders and remedies, the cases cited, etc. Now, what I want to show us is the case charts feature where you can now engage in more questions specifically on the case itself. So you can query the AI on the specific case that you've opened, and it will give you further details about the case that you can continue to engage. Now, let me come down to what we're talking about properly here. And I'll just take one of the previous prompts we wrote or previous prompts we saw and use that as an example. So you're saying that summarize the legal principles on this, and now let me just go. Now, it's important to note that we are asking the AI to present a response as a 3-paragraph legal memo. So text you're looking for and stuff like that. Now, when you go on your own Dennislaw, you can explore some of these properly yourself. The sources that it relies on are summarized here for you. I can click on that and engage the case even further. If I want to read the full case as well, I can do that as well here. So that's just how the Dennislaw AI works for you. And I'm sure when we come to the question time, there are more issues that you can ask there. Let me come back to what I'm sharing. All right. So ethical things, you want to check client confidentiality. You don't want to delegate the judgment. You must understand the tools you are using and then any rules applicable. All right. So I think that will be it for today's session. If there are any questions, we'll take that in the question time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eliza, for that wonderful session. Our fellow participants, if you just joined us, we are discussing effective AI prompts in legal writing and research. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat box. I'll read them to Eliza, who will provide all the answers that you need. Eliza, just before we take some other questions, I find the part about ethical responsibility is very crucial. Now, you spoke about the element of precision, providing context, among other things. Uh, how do we? To what extent do we feed these AI tools with data without necessarily breaching lawyer client confidentiality privileges or considering other data protection, you know, rules that may apply? Because in one breath, we are saying that we should feed AI with as much information as possible so that we get the clarity of results and the precision that we need. But to what extent should we feed it with this data so as not to put in so much of our clients' data on there? Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. And typically, we look at this from 2 points of view. There is the AI bit that trains the model. Then there is there's the data bit that trains the model, which traditionally you would not have hands-on because you're not a part of the development process. But there's also the bit where now you are prompting the AI, and so you are usually going to give it the kind of data you want it to analyze or process to give it the response you want. Again, we mentioned what we call personally identifiable information. So you think of it as combination of text that, when put together, can be used to identify who the person is. So you can make biodata stuff that when you combine, you'll be able to identify who we are dealing with. It is important that if it is not important for the query you are running, don't include it. There's also typically what we call pseudonymization, where you may refer to that as a John Doe. So, as much as possible, if it's not relevant for the kind of output you're looking for, just say, what do I say? John Doe, just say Joseph Smith, just say anything really that anyone can not pinpoint to this person and say, this is the person we are referring to. So, as much as possible, you want to focus more on the things that are exclusively relevant to the case, but will not be combined to identify who we are dealing with in that instance. Because the AI does not really need to know that what we are talking about is Kofi that lives in Malam, house number 205, and has 3 kids. Unless, of course, having 3 kids is relevant. Maybe living in Barry is important, but then the house number of the person may not be important for the kind of output you're looking for. But so you want to exclude that. The phone number of the client is not important, so you'd want to exclude that. But you just keep it mostly to the facts minus the person's personally identifiable information. Because the risk here really is that, and it happens because your query is now being used to train the model. The output the model is given is also being used to feed back the development. Who knows tomorrow if, as the AI is hallucinating, if it's a poorly coded AI, begins to now output actual names of people in its future outputs or results that it gives. So maybe in your instance, you didn't see, or the risk that it didn't arise. But for someone else who is also querying around the same field, the AI now begins to give those responses because we call something overfitting, where it is skewed around, exclusively skewed around the data it has been trained on. So it's sort of like give it A, it outputs A. It's not able to learn properly out of multiple parameters to give a response that would be best suited. And maybe it wasn't properly coded again, so it doesn't know to exclude personal information of people. So these are some of the guardrails you would have to note as the person using the AI to ensure that you don't give too much information that will not come back to affect your client.
Well, thank you very much, Eliza. Let me read some of the questions we have from our participants. Now, this is a long one from Benjamin. It says that, please, you mentioned that providing context is essential to avoid the garbage in, garbage out problem when using example ChatGPT. Then you also added that context includes the applicable law, jurisdiction of the said matter, etc. My question is about in situations where a lawyer genuinely has very little context at the start of the inquiry or of the problem of the client has presented. In such situations where the lawyer herself is trying to understand the problem and cannot provide detailed context, how would you recommend we create our prompt so that these AI tools, such as ChatGPT or the Dennislaw AI, can still produce useful and reliable starting points for research? Also, if we describe a scenario to Dennislaw AI, for example, would it help us give context?
Okay, this is a very layered question in multiple fields. So
Very, yeah.
try and take it one by one. So the first part says you genuinely do not have enough context yourself. In the presentation earlier, I mentioned brainstorming, where you are beginning to set the pace for where you are going. So in your initial query, you just need about the AI to give you a general sense of what the atmosphere is like. Even then, you should still let the AI know that this general sense we are talking about is legal, it's Ghanaian jurisdiction based, or maybe it's this area of law based. As much as possible, you can set those parameters and then tell the AI that your task in this instance is we are brainstorming. I think I mentioned that earlier. So you state that as the task or as the objective in that initial session you are running. And then based on the response that it gives, I mentioned earlier also that it works best with dialoguing. It's not a one prompt, take the response and go. After it has given you its initial response, then you begin to dialogue with the AI. You want it to now focus on something because after the general responses it gave you, it's able to now, as it were, um, dovetail into the specific matters that you're looking for so that from little context, now you have a defined shoe you are wearing, which drives the rest of the conversation. I hope that helps. The next bit
Well,
the next bit is how would you recommend we create our prompts so that these AI tools can still produce useful and reliable starting points for research? I think we addressed that in the previous question. And the last bit says, describe a scenario where Dennislaw AI, for example, can help give us context. Again, we mentioned that Dennislaw itself is a legal-based AI. So we've done a lot of work in getting the context sorted for you. So you don't have to come to Dennislaw and say you are a legal-based AI, for instance. But you may want to say that for this context, you are focused on contract law because maybe that's the subject matter you are dealing with. And that gives it at least minimal context on top of what we have already done, because we have done the hard work for you in letting you know that it's working on Ghanaian law, it's working on Ghanaian cases, it's working on Ghanaian laws. It has these laws and cases for direct, easy, constant refresh and indexing. So it can always look back on the case because it is built directly on this. That is the training data we've given it. So we've done a lot of that hard work for you so you don't have to worry that the AI is beginning to think as a medical practitioner or as a therapist. But we've done most of that hard work for you. So all you have to do now mostly is to say in this particular session, assume the role of a commercial lawyer, assume the role of a criminal lawyer. And what you're trying to do here is to do A, B, C, D based on, say, these and this and that issues that we've had. Or you want to say that I want you to identify cases on this that relates to this subject matter. Naturally, Dennislaw would understand that we are dealing with legal matters, so it will not recommend articles on medicine, on dentistry, but it would focus more on Ghanaian jurisdiction-based cases that address or that have facts relating to the matters that you've done or that you're looking for. And again, I showed you from the law reports that the AI now has a bank of issues per every case that is available on this. For over 13,000 cases or some Dennislaw, it has the bank of facts or the issues that drove those cases. So it's an easy reference to those materials to be able to give you the kind of results you're looking for.
thank you for that, Eliezer. Someone is asking a simple one. Nana Mwako is asking if the application that is a Dennislaw AI is available on all operating systems, Windows, Apple,
Yes.
Android.
So Dennislaw is a web application. So yes, you can access it from every operating system you use, from Linux, from so long as it has ability to connect to the internet. And I think the popular browsers from our users have been the Chrome, Safari, a few on Edge. Yeah. But for the mobile application, it is something we are working on and should be out very soon. So that is already in progress. But for the web application, you can access it from every application that you use, from every operating system that you use.
All right. Eliza, Lois is also asking on that point of dialogue. She's asking that given that AI works best in the form of a dialogue, can it be used to search for legal cases? Now, she's asking how you start a dialogue when all you are looking for is just a particular case. I think I want to combine that with another question in relation to the cases. Um, whether, whether, yes, so please, with foreign AIs like Claude ChatGPT, are they able to provide accurate Ghanaian cases with a good prompt? Yes. So kindly deal with that dialogue issue and then the particular issue of looking for just a case and the comparative analysis of the generic AI platforms as opposed to what Dennislaw offers, since it's an AI system built specifically for the Ghanaian legal jurisdiction.
Okay, so let's test that on Dennislaw, see how that works. So we don't have anything specific we are looking for. We just know maybe we are looking for something on. Can someone help me? Maybe anything, any issue we may want to explore. If you can. So we use that as a guide. Oh, okay. There's something. What are the key elements of criminal law defenses? This will be a bad prompt, like we've discussed, because criminal law defenses in words.
I think um, may I assist?
Yes, please go
Something
ahead.
more technical.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead. Assist me.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Let's
Assist me.
let's try looking for some cases on stay of execution or stay of proceedings. Ghanaian case law on stay of execution or stay of proceedings.
Okay, let's identify Ghanaian cases on stay of execution. Let's just start with that.
I hope we are all following. This is a live demonstration of
So
how the Dennislaw AI works. Yeah.
over here we don't have a lot of ideas we are looking for. We are now brainstorming. I mentioned that for Dennislaw, we've done a lot of the context building for you. So you don't have to be so explicit with them. But if you were using maybe ChatGPT or Claude or any other platform, then yes, you would have to build a lot of context yourself because those are general purpose AI models. But this is specifically on legal data and it understands that. So we don't have to be so explicit. And that's the advantage Dennislaw would give you. So now let's go ahead. Identify Ghanaian cases on stay of execution. Let's see. So it gives you the reasoning process. Now let's see what it tells us. And any of us can verify for some of the seniors on the call if you agree with these responses the AI would give you. So it says that several Ghanaian cases have addressed the principles and requirements for granting a stay of execution. Now, remember that because we did not specify that we want principles and requirements for granting, it assumes we may have wanted to change the focus and say we want cases that showed or that were affected by stay of execution. That response would be different from a general purpose prompt like this, for instance, where we didn't specify what kinds of response you're looking for on stay of execution. So like we said, it assumes or it predicts what the next sequence of words most likely would be, and it takes the highly ranked one. So then in this context, it assumes that we're looking for the requirements, but that may have been different from what we are looking for. And so if you don't have the general notion or the context of what you wanted from the beginning, maybe something like this now comes and you know, okay, I'm not looking for this. So if I'm not looking for this, what you're looking for becomes a lot clearer for you, and that can shape the next response you give it based on this conversation you're having. And all of this will be stored within this session that you are working with. All right. Now, the next thing we should see is that the cases that we are looking for we've built it in such a way that if the AI references any resource, it gives you the sources on the side panel that you can easily check. So over here, we looked at a number of cases here. You can always go ahead and see if, so we see Mohammed Odati Lamte, and this is the reference from the case that the court uses. Now, which aspect of this case drove this response or drove the selection here? It brings us the quote. It says, it strikes law that in cases of stay of execution, the court is faced with two decisions. First, the decision that a successful party should not be deprived of the fruits of his victory. And secondly, the applicant should be assured that if he is successful on appeal, it will not be rendered nugatory. So the AI assumed here they are looking for requirements for granting stay. And based on this case from Mohammed Odati Lamte, two requirements stand out. And that's the first, that the successful party should not be deprived. And then the second is that if he's successful, it will not be rendered nugatory. So then in whatever use case you had for looking for a case like this now becomes an authority that you may want to reference, unless of course you again want to see other sources. And we give you multiples here that you can quickly check to see if something counteracts another, if something. So yeah, I think generally that's the idea we are working with. I don't know if that helped you.
Yes, I think this has really helped. To our participants, you can use the same prompt on any of the other generic AI models, and you'd realize that the Dennislaw provides very detailed and specific, case laws. I just cross-checked with my law finder the cases that it provided, which appears very accurate and speaks to the areas of law in the prompt. And so I think that it provides some useful material over there. There was another question. We're almost getting to the end of the session, but there was another question to the effect that, is it a case that if you effectively couch your prompt, it completely avoids hallucination by the AI system? Given that in your presentation you mentioned that the system is unable to achieve 100% precision, even with the large language models. Does it prevent hallucination?
So hallucination comes from training data, all right, and how the model that has been built reacts to the training data. What you are doing with your prompt writing is trying to use this training data regardless to be able to give the sort of response that would help your own use case. Effectively writing your prompts may be able to sidestep them, may be able to give you good responses. And I use that carefully here. But no amount of good prompt writing will override your need to always verify. You cannot escape the need for verification with good prompt writing. Even if it is a direct A and B lookup, it looks up from A and writes A for you, you still want to be sure that the application that it is giving you there is accurate. For instance, in this case that we have mentioned, maybe the court made this dictum that is relevant for us, but maybe this was not the lead opinion of the court. Maybe there was something else the court said, and maybe the lead opinion, maybe this was a dissenting opinion. You want to be careful in how you use it so that it doesn't now become basis for someone having an easy way to override your defenses or the arguments that you're making. And so, whilst the AI would still be able to give you what you're looking for, nothing should make you so comfortable as to think there is no need to verify. And that would be my takeaway on that matter. Because good prompt writing would help you, but only so far. You still have a responsibility to be sure of the outputs you are getting and be sure of the way you are using it. And that is why, for some of us, we believe that AI technology would still not replace professionals in the way they do their work in whichever field. JB, I think.
Very well, very well. There's this last two questions. One is asking, can we open multiple ASL DL tabs on different task or research topics at a go?
So,
Elias, I hope that's clear.
okay, currently you can't open multiple tabs, but you can move across research history. So these are previous conversations that we've had, or something that I have had with my AI. For instance, what we have currently, I can go back into a conversation I had 4 hours ago and continue the conversation there, and I would not lose what I'm having right now. So, but if you mean in terms of switching amongst tabs, no, that currently is not how the UI looks. But you can easily still reference previous histories to be able to get access to what you're doing across multiple conversation sessions. I hope that helps.
Elias, are you there?
Yes, yes, I'm here. I think I
R-
landed.
right. So the last one, and it appears the double-barreled question. So Francis is asking that there are recent cases such as Cole versus Lee and then on responsible use of AI in legal processes. Now, he thanks you for raising the issue of ethics in this presentation. He's asking, can the Dennislaw AI application provide relevant cases cited by each court in a case after an effective prompt is imputed? I think that has partially been answered, but you can look at that again. And then his second question is that in Canada, lawyers are to state on legal processes if they use AI in their work. Ghana does not have who has the intellectual property rights for AI generated. I believe that that's more of a legal
Yeah,
question, inviting discussions on intellectual property rights. So I believe you may focus on the what relates to the Dennislaw AI. Yes. So for
okay.
us.
I want to understand the AI question again. If it provides relevant cases cited by each court, in a case when one pulls up a case after an effective prompt. I'm not sure I understand. Uh, like I've mentioned, the AI still would give you the sources it's given its response from. So those relevant sources would always be there for you. Those relevant sources will always be there for you to quickly reference and then reuse for whatever you want to do. So to that extent, yes, Dennislaw would always give you that relevant case cited by each court in the case, based on, of course, the prompts that you write. If you need the AI to tell you that I want responses from the Court of Appeal, I want responses from the West African Court of Appeal, from the fancy law reports, because we have those cases on Dennislaw. If you need the AI to explicitly give you responses from there, yes, it would give you those. And let me show the sort of law reports we have on Dennislaw. So we have from the Supreme Court, we have from the Court of Appeal, we have from the High Courts, we have from SRAJ, we have from the NMC, we have from the NLC, we have from the ECT, then the more historical cases, the West African Court of Appeal, fancy law reports, also all of these things are there that you can easily use. So yes, based on the kind of prompts that you'd ask or that you give the AI on Dennislaw, it's able to, I don't know, derive them from these resources that we've trained it on. I think that should answer the question.
Right. On that note, we bring the session to an end. We promise to stay within the time. It's 2 minutes past 7:30, and we started at exactly 6:32, and so we'll end here. The slides would be shared to all participants so that we can read and appreciate the discussion properly. But as we conclude, the key takeaway is simple: that the effectiveness of AI in legal practice is depends on the quality of the lawyer's instruction and judgment. So AI can assist with your research, it can assist with your drafting, it can assist with your analysis, but it has not replaced your professional responsibility or legal reasoning. And so apply the relevant prompts, be precise in your prompts, give it as much information as you can without compromising your professional responsibility of confidentiality. And the context do matter. Just like we said, the Dennislaw AI platform is tailored towards the Ghanaian legal jurisdiction. And so it affords you whatever you need in terms of legal resource materials within the Ghanaian jurisdiction. And so look no further for your materials or the AI research and prompts in respect of the finding materials which relate to the Ghanaian legal system.
Okay.
AI, as we have said, AI will not replace lawyers. It will only distinguish those who know how to use it effectively from those who do not. And so let's take advantage of this. We
Maybe
appreciate it, Leza.
maybe I have to add this before we
Yes.
close that we are now Dennis Law as a team. One of our focus now is to work with firms, institutions, organizations really to build their in-house AI strategy, and we offer trainings and additional tools that will help them optimize their business functions, optimize their legal research and stuff. So we are working hand in hand really with organizations in this regard. So if anyone is interested, if any firm or individual even is interested in some of these optimization processes or these trainings and the tools we're talking about, you can always reach out to us through our customer service channels or through our emails at info@dennislawgh.com, and would always get back to you and we'll discuss how we can better solve the problems you're trying to solve. So thank you for that.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll reach out to you, Eliza, and we hope it would come at discounted rates. So thank you very much, Eliza, for that wonderful session. And thanks to all participants for joining us this evening on this session. Stay tuned for subsequent sessions that may come. I believe we are learning a lot, and special appreciation to Dennislaw for providing this essential and insightful educative sessions. Thank you very much, and have a good evening to everyone.